Mr. Brennan, thank you for your service over the years. I want to follow up on a conversation you and I had in my office, and it touches on what Senator Burr asked you about a little bit, and that is the question of leaks. I was glad to hear you acknowledge in your opening statement how important it is that we avoid leaks of any kind, because they are dangerous, they endanger the lives of Americans, and they can't be tolerated in the business that we're in. And you agree with that, I gather.
Absolutely, Senator.
Okay. Well, I want to talk to you about a person who I believe, and I think you acknowledge, is one of the most dangerous people on the planet, and that's Ibrahim al-Assiri. And the conversation that you had with Senator Burr was referring to the interview that you gave that talked about the plot that was uncovered that involved him. Do you recall that conversation with Senator Burr?
Yes, I do, Senator.
Okay. I have in front of me the Reuters article that's dated May 18th, 2012, describing your engagement with the media regarding Mr. Assiri and the plot. And you're familiar with that article, I would assume.
I have read many articles, so I presume I read that one.
Well, this particular one is the one that's seminal, I think, as far as the leak itself and how we got to where we are on this. I want to quote from the article. It says, at about 5:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Monday, May 7th, just before the evening newscasts, John Brennan, President Barack Obama's top White House advisor on counterterrorism, held a small private teleconference to brief former counterterrorism advisors who have become frequent commentators on TV news shows. Is that an accurate statement?
That is an accurate statement, Senator, yes.
Okay. Can you tell me who was involved in that conversation? Who was involved in that interview?
I believe that the people who were on that phone included one of my predecessors, Fran Townsend, Roger Cressy, Juan Zarate, Richard Clark. I think these are individuals who served in the government and are counterterrorism professionals.
Any others you can think of?
I do not remember the others.
Do you have notes from that conversation?
There are notes, yes, that people took of that, yes.
Okay. Have those been turned over to the Justice Department?
The Justice Department, as I said, I voluntarily and eagerly engaged in that
That wasn't the question. Have those notes been turned over?
Everything that was available on that has been turned over to the Department of Justice. Absolutely, Senator.
Did you turn those notes over?
My office turned over everything that was available about that, yes.
Who took those notes?
Senator, I was not taking notes at the time. There was people who also from the White House who were on that conversation, as we do with all of these types of engagements.
And who were the people that were involved in that conversation?
Aside from the reporters, there was somebody from the White House press office and someone from the Counterterrorism Directorate.
You don't know the people's names?
I do. They were Nick Rasmussen and Caitlin Hayden.
Okay, those are the two people from the White House that were involved beside yourself.
That's my recollection of who was involved in that conference call, yes.
Okay. May 7th was the date that the incident occurred, is that correct?
The date of the conversation with those reporters?
Excuse me. The date of the underlying event that you were talking about involving Mr. Assiri.
Now you're talking about Mr. Assiri in terms of being the person who was responsible for putting together the IED.
Correct.
That is, I believe that May 7th was about the right date, yes.
And can you tell me why you felt compelled to release that information to these people on May 7th, 2012?
Well, as I explained on the network news the following morning, and as we said publicly, that device was not a threat to the American public at the time of the bin Laden anniversary.
I don't want to cut you off, but that's not the question.
I thought it was, Senator, but go ahead.
The question was, why did you feel compelled to hold this press conference and divulge that information at that time on that day?
It wasn't a press conference. It was a teleconference with these individuals, and I know they were going out on TV that evening, and I want to make sure that these individuals with that background on counterterrorism were able to explain appropriately to the American people, as we've been talking about the importance of making sure the American people are aware of the threat environment and what we're doing on the counterterrorism front.
And they were going to go on TV that evening to discuss this event?
Yes, because it had already broken. The news reports had broken that afternoon, Senator, and so there was a flurry of activity and press reporting that was going on. These individuals reached out to us as they normally do. So this was just a routine engagement with the press, as we normally do when these things are made public.
The next paragraph says, according to 5 people familiar with the call, Brennan stressed that the plot was never a threat to the U.S. public or air safety because Washington had inside control over it. Is that an accurate statement?
Inside control of the plot, yes, that's exactly right.
Okay. So based on that, one would know that we had something inside. Is that a fair statement?
From that statement, it is known that that IED at the time was not a threat to the traveling public because we had said publicly that there was no active plot at the time of the bin Laden anniversary. That's correct.
Would you agree with me that that disclosure was resulted in the outing of an asset that shouldn't have been outed?
Absolutely not, Senator. I do not agree with you whatsoever.
How can you say that?
Because what I'm saying is that we were explaining to the American public why that IED was not, in fact, a threat at the time that it was in the control of individuals. When we say positive control, inside control, that means that we have, in fact, that operation either environmentally or any number of ways. It did not in any way reveal any type of classified information. And I told those individuals, and to the transcripts that are available of that conversation, I cannot talk to you about the operational details of this whatsoever.
Having used the words that you used of inside control, it isn't much of a leap to determine that somehow you had a handle on it.
It's not much of a leap to know that if, in fact, we said this IED was, in fact, obtained and it was not a threat at the time, that there was some type of inside control. It is almost a truism.
Well, having said that, it seems to me that the leak that the Justice Department is looking for is right here in front of us. And you disagree with that?
I disagree with you vehemently, Senator, and I've talked to the Department of Justice. As I said, I conducted interviews with them, and I am a witness in that, as many other people are. And as you know, there's witness and subject and target. I'm not a subject, I'm not a target, I am a witness. Because I want to make sure whoever leaked this information that got out to the press, and that seriously did disrupt some very sensitive operational equities on the part of some of our international partners, that never should have happened.
And you're in agreement with that this was a serious flaw in what should have happened. Is that correct?
It's a serious flaw that it got out to the press before that operation was, in fact, concluded. Absolutely.
And
my discussion with those individuals that night, it already was out in the press.
You would agree with me that on the day that we get Mr. Asiri, it's going to be either a very, very good day, or if he gets us first, it's going to be a very, very bad day for the American people, and particularly for anyone who was involved in a leak concerning him.
Senator, I live this every day and night.
I understand.
I go to bed at night worrying that I didn't do enough that day to make sure I protect the American people. So when Mr. Asiri is brought to justice one way or another, it'll be because of the work that's been done over the past number of years by some very brave Americans in CIA and other places. So believe me, I am focused as a laser on the issue of the IED threat, AQAP, and Mr. al-Asiri.
I have more, but my time's up. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Risch. Senator McCullough.